that's not the case, but
Start first off, I want to welcome everybody that came. I want to welcome back. This is the first meeting we've had since September of last year because I've been in the hospital. I ignored my health for 75 years, and this last year I've made up for all that lost time and those missed doctor's appointments. But so far everything's been benign and looks good. Hey, come on in. Welcome back, Ralph. How you doing, brother?
great, how you doing?
Ah,
Pretty good.
yeah. I'm still upright and breathing. That's better off than I was a couple of months ago. I've been in the hospital 4 times, had major surgery, 3 minor surgical procedures, and radiation. So it's been a pretty exciting time. I glow in the dark now. Okay. Yeah, don't forget to do the sign-in sheet, Ralph, please. Before I get in with the main program, I'm going to pass the hat here when I get through running my mouth. If you can, put a couple of bucks in to help pay for gas for Wendi to come up here. She drove clear up from way down south, almost in Dixie, isn't it? Yeah. So, all right, first off, everybody knows who Don Spencer is, our president. We need to include him in our prayers. He's had a heck of a time. He had cataract surgery. There was something that didn't go right, so he had another surgery. He's had 4 surgeries, and his vision still isn't right. Then he had a basal cell carcinoma removed from the left side of the bridge of his nose right here. So they've had to do, hey, thanks for coming.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Don't ever apologize for showing up. And so he's had to have nose reconstruction surgery done. And then everybody heard about the fires here a week or so ago in Logan County. He was up all day and all night fighting the fire around his house. He lives rural in eastern Logan County. You know where Seward Road is? The road south of Guthrie? He's about 6 or 8 miles east of there. Hello. Thanks for coming. There's a sign-in sheet in the back if you don't mind. Thank you. And then he had 8 houses. It's rural, so he had 8 houses around him. Every one of them was reduced to white ash. His house is intact. And so let's remember Don in our prayers. He was a week or so late, but he's been at the Capitol pounding on some bills. Glenn's going to give a short synopsis later on the bills that the OK2A priority bills that we still have active. Also, something that this is very personal, but when I pray every day now, every time I pray, I'm thanking the Lord for letting me live long enough to see what's going on in this country now.
Amen.
Yeah, it's a blessing. Last time we met, we didn't know what was going to happen. You regulars, you may remember Marilyn Patton. She usually sat over here in the second row, third row, little short, white-haired lady, just looked sweet as a bell. And she was an interesting lady. When she was a young lady, she built and raced cars on dirt tracks. Yeah, and that would have been back in the 50s. She was a lady well ahead of her times. She was a strong supporter. She was a gold member to OK2A, and she passed away here a month or so ago. And I was blessed. I got the opportunity to speak briefly about her at her memorial service, and her daughter-in-law was with her. And I'm not sure. I think these may have been her last words. Her daughter-in-law, she was conscious, and her daughter-in-law asked her, "Are you ready to go home?" Marilyn replied, "Hell no, I want to see what Trump's going to do next." Think of that. She's laying there dying, and that was her last thought. God bless her. And mention her in your prayers.
She didn't even have her eyes open.
Yeah. Oh, she didn't?
No.
Oh, okay. And as long as we're talking about prayers, folks, we need to pray every day for Trump's safety and Elon Musk's safety and everybody else in his administration. They are hunting President Trump. They've been doing it. To be honest, I've been a Trumpster since before he came down the escalator. And I've been worried the whole time that they were going to take him out. If they take it, now thankfully, we've got a backup team now, I think, with J.D. Vance. I was very lukewarm about him to start off with, and now I'm really excited about him. But we need the Lord's hand. The Lord's hand was on his head in Butler, Pennsylvania. He came within less than an inch of getting the back of his head blown out, just like the deep state did to JFK. I've known that was the case for decades with JFK, but the stuff that's coming out now, it nails it down. It was the Mossad, the Israelis. I'd never considered them, the Mafia, and our own CIA. That organization needs to be gutted and thrown out, and then people need to be put in jail. Anyway, pray for Trump. All of these meetings on our Saturday meetings are archived on YouTube. You just go to OK2AK County Chapter. So if you have any friends that you think might be interested in seeing this, send that information to them. And they're archived. We have all of our meetings there for years back archived there. We also, and I've been really hesitant to broadcast this, we also stream it. But I've decided this month, I got up early this morning, I redid the flyer and sent it out to a bunch of people. Hello, Jay.
How you doing?
Welcome.
Told you I'd be here. I just didn't tell you when.
Yeah, that's okay. So anyway, I still hope people will come and put their butts in the seats here, but we do stream this. So again, if you have people, somebody in Ardmore can watch it if they want to. So I guess somebody in England could watch it if they wanted to. But let's see. Now we've got 2 speakers today. First speaker is going to be, Joe decide, is it going to be you, Wendi? Okay. Wendi Dial, who spoke here about a year ago, I guess it was. And in fact, John Lucas got here and he said, I had to come see her because last time she had nothing but bad news for us. So I told him, I said, and Wendi, correct me if I'm wrong here, Wendy's job isn't to pump us up. it's to warn us of the dangers we're facing. Is that a good description of your mission?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then Richard Tortorello, they're both experts on what's going on with our election system. They're trying to gut our primary, basically. They're going to explain all of this, and then we're going to do Q&A, but we're going to do it after each one of them speak. Okay, and your regulars know the drill, but for anybody that doesn't know the drill, the way we're going to do the questions, I'll remind you before we get to do the questions, the way we do the questions, you raise your hand, I call on you in the order I see the hands raised, and then please get right to your question. We don't have enough time for you to explain why you're asking that question. Okay, and then Joe Baden, who was just reelected as K County GOP chair, and he's running for the school board here in Ponca City, so he's going to take a few minutes at the end of the meeting, and he's got some of his Joe Baden for school board signs back there. What are they, $25 a piece?
I actually am not raising money for this race.
Oh, okay. Anyway, you know me, I got to be a smart ass, right?
But I'm not saying that.
I'm a. See, the thing is, I'm a. What?
I'm not saying I wouldn't take your money. I even split it with the church.
Many of you already know this, but I'm a compulsive smart ass. I can't help it. So you just have to forgive me and get along with it. All right, Wendy, Richard, I'm turning the meeting over to you, and thank you for coming.
Point of order, sir. We haven't had a prayer or a pledge yet.
Oh, man, thank you, thank you. Well, we've got one pastor here. It's Glenn Cope. In fact, I should introduce Glenn, and Stephen Phipps. He's our AV guy, and he's been my host here for years. Anyway, yeah, Glenn, if you'll lead us in prayer.
Our dear Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you that we're able to gather together in peace. We pray, Father, that as we seek to improve our country, we want to promote our country following your will. Father, we want to pray for our government, that they may be mindful of your will and how they should live and how they should enact law. We want you to watch over our leaders, as many of them are under danger, but your hand will be upon their protection. Father, I want to pray for our state, as many people have suffered with the recent fires, especially Don, his neighborhood, and Don's health. Pray that you'll be with him. Thank you, Father, for the healing that you've given to many of us. We pray that we'll give you the glory and the honor. Father, we pray that as we meet together, we will encourage each other, will be encouraged to support your will, that will be applied to our government and our lives. Pray that in your Son's name.
Amen. John, could I get you to lead us in the pledge?
Yeah.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One other thing I forgot to mention, I never forget anything. I didn't forget, I was just testing to see if Joe was paying attention. Joe, you passed. It's a Trump hat, so feed it.
Okay, so as Terry said, my name is Wendi Montgomery Dial. I was here about a year ago talking to you guys about the issues with Oklahoma elections. I'm here to tell you, number one, those haven't changed, but also number two, we have a problem that goes right along with that could end up being a very destructive issue if we don't get on it right away. So I have partnered up with Richard Tortorello, and we are now known as the Grassroots War Room. And we're here to talk to you about State Question 836. How many of you have heard of State Question 836? Gloria, of course. Okay, so question 836. And let's see if my clicker is going to work. I'm short, and it's not one. Okay, it's not wanting to work.
You want me to help you back here? Maybe it will work.
Okay. Okay, so
Hold your mouth just right.
there you go. My grandmother always said that. You're not holding your mouth right if it doesn't work. Okay, so who knows who that is? Well, now we have the answer, so everybody knows who that is. Alexander Hamilton. On the other hand, it will be equally forgotten that the vigor of government is essential to the security of liberty, that in the contemplation of a sound and well-informed judgment, their interests can never be separated, and that a dangerous ambition more often lurks behind the specious mask of zeal for the rights of the people than under the forbidden appearance of zeal for the firmness and efficiency of government. History will teach us that the former has been found a much more certain road to the introduction of despotism than the latter, and that of those men who have overturned the liberties of republics, the greatest number have begun their career by paying an obsequious court to the people, commencing demagogues and ending tyrants. So beware of Greeks bearing gifts, and also beware of people coming around claiming to be worried about your rights. Okay, so initiative petition, State Question 836. There are a couple of groups in Oklahoma, and I think it's all part of one organization, or they do know each other, I suppose, that are coming into the state, pouring money into the state. They've been here a little while, driving this initiative petition, which will essentially change the Constitution of our state to allow, not only allow, but mandate open primaries. And put that actually into our state constitution. Not just amend the law in the statutes, but to amend the Constitution. Okay, so the two groups, Oklahoma United, which consists of a Tulsa attorney, a former state senator who was a Republican, okay, and a GOP political consultant. This is a bipartisan effort to change our Constitution. The other group has a webpage, Vote Yes 836. You have to join the team to find out who is behind the group, which I find interesting. They want you to sign up first before they give you any information about who they are. Okay, State Question 836. The proponents say that voters are being disenfranchised by closed primaries. The way the primary system works in Oklahoma is very simple. If you want to vote in somebody's primary, sign up for the party. If you're disenfranchised in the parties in Oklahoma in the primaries, you've disenfranchised yourself by choosing not to join a party that most closely aligns to your platform. General elections in November are meaningless. This is what they say then. So it doesn't matter. You've got very few people that are choosing the candidates, so why even bother to vote in the generals? Everybody knows the Republican's going to win, because it's Oklahoma, and we are a majority conservative Republican state, right? Then they say meaningless elections have led to the lowest voter turnout in the nation. Well, this is not true. As a matter of fact, our presidential election, 64.4% in November turned out. That's not too bad. That's well over half the voters that are on the rolls coming to turn out in our election. And that's not any different, really, than elections have been in Oklahoma for quite some time. So our generals, we get around 60-65%. I just told you, those are false narratives, easily disproven. So you wonder what's going on here. So first, we'll go through a history of State Question 836. It began as State Question 835. It's been around for a couple of years. It has very little in social media following. I just got on their social media. I think the platform I was looking at, may have been Facebook, could be X. They only have about 300 followers. So they've been around for a while. They have a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of following. It has a presence on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, etc. So you can look for this. You can Google this and you can find it and look around for yourself. Okay. It was brought out to the public in November of 2024 using the full force of Oklahoma's media elite. Now, Rashard and I were both there at that press conference and at that announcement. But so was every single major media outlet for the state of Oklahoma, and very few actual citizens. There were people were invited. You had the proponents, you had their group, and then you had this vast media presence, okay? Now, the authors claimed in the November press conference that State Question 835 would not affect the office of presidential elector. That's easily disproven. It was altered after that announcement and resubmitted to the Secretary of State. That's why it is now State Question 836. So millions of dollars has flowed into Oklahoma to push State Question 836 and alter our Constitution. Why? What was hidden in State Question 835? Okay, so you can take a picture of this if you can't read it. I'm going to summarize these real quick for you. This initiative petition sets up a new article to Oklahoma's Constitution labeled 3A. This is a brand new article to our Constitution. This is not merely amending language. This is adding a brand new article, okay? So, it places open primaries into the Constitution. Closed primaries, as a comparison, would only be lawful by statute, Title 26-1-104. That's where you can find that. It sets up an open primary system where candidates from all parties and organizations are on a single ballot with their party registration noted, but they're all on a single ballot and you get to vote for one. The top two candidates, regardless of party affiliation or lack thereof, advance to the general election. So we could have a situation where, let's say, the Socialist Party or something of Oklahoma decides to come in and throw a candidate on the ballot. Their candidate would go onto this ballot. It's possible, if that's one of the top two candidates, that they're going to move to the general election. So you could have a situation, if this goes through, where we don't have any Republicans on the ballot in the general election. Okay, so this is basically a slightly different form of ranked choice voting. You get the top two going. Could be two Democrats, could be two Republicans, it could be a Republican and a Libertarian, it could be a Democrat and a Libertarian, or an independent and a Libertarian. We could end up with a very liberal, I guess I should amend that to say openly liberal legislature. Local offices are excluded from this, but your statewide elections, your representatives, your senators, your statewide officers, your board of commissioners,
Labor commissioner.
they run the labor commissioner, and I always think of the commission that regulates things like well pressure. Corporation Commission, thank you very much. My brain this morning, not enough coffee. So your statewide offices, we could end up with very openly liberal government, and you think they don't listen to you now. Okay, so what this does though, besides that, besides the fact that they are trying to put in our state constitution a form of ranked choice voting, which, by the way, Oklahoma just passed a law which outlawed ranked choice voting. This is why they would have to do this in the Constitution, okay? Besides that, this is the Trojan horse that was hidden in this information, November 2024. I always look, when a group comes in and they've got information, I'll get the information, I will look at what they are not telling you about, what they're not explaining, what they're not paying attention to. And section 5 of this petition, it says, Article 3, section 3 of the Oklahoma Constitution is hereby repealed. The entire thing, not amended, repealed. No explanation. Article 3, section 3 of our state constitution is the provision that allows the parties to choose their presidential electors. Article 3, section 3 also has language that allows independents and other parties to petition to have their candidates on ballots in Oklahoma to begin with. Superseding language, this new article would supersede, it says, any statute or constitutional provision with which it's in conflict. Article 3, section 4 says that the legislature of the state of Oklahoma will determine how all of our elections are held. This article believes, they believe with this petition, they can supersede even that language. Any article, okay, any language in the Constitution or statute would be superseded by this. So after an article was written by Restore Liberty Oklahoma, so you guys know that I'm the editor for Restore Liberty Oklahoma, right? So I saw this, and what did I do? I sat down and I wrote it up in an article warning the people of the state of Oklahoma, you guys, this sounds good, but this is so not good. Number one, they are misinforming people, to say the least. If you want to say in your public announcements and in your literature that you are not going to affect presidential electors, but then you affect presidential electors, you got a problem. So I pointed this out in the article. They refiled it, they changed the language. The interesting thing was, how many of you guys know Jason Murphy? Okay, Jason Murphy writes on the Capitol Information. And yesterday he was on the Rote podcast and he was talking about to beware of the word notwithstanding.
Yep.
When they rewrote this article, they put language in there that restores the party's ability. This is all they did. It says notwithstanding the fact that we just repealed Article 3, Section 3, notwithstanding that, okay? The parties will still choose their presidential electors through their conventions. There's no restoration of the independents' rights to have their candidates on the ballot. There's nothing else. That notwithstanding is what could land this in court, I believe. Somebody's going to likely challenge this in a court of law as well. I think if it were to pass that they should, but that's a problem. This whole state question ends up being a problem that could land us in court for a very long time, trying to figure out how we choose our presidential electors in Oklahoma. Okay, so what changed? Let's explore. All right, so as I just said, Section 5 was changed. Language was added to protect the rights of the parties to choose the presidential electors. I still don't see it where it's strong enough. Plus, I don't see why we're not just striking language in that article anyway. Why are we repealing the whole thing? And they're only restoring a little part of it with some very legally questionable language, okay? So again, this was the only change that was made to that petition. And I have the previous and the previous literature and the new stuff. And I'm trying to get this, like I said, guys, I'm short. And that's just not cooperating with me today.
Wendy, let me get the clicker and stand back here and do it.
Yeah, Terry, if you don't mind, you can help me out there. Thank you, sir.
And just that's the button.
Terry, no, the arrow, the forward arrow.
Oh.
Thank you. Right, so now that Terry has the clicker, maybe we can advance. Yay, okay. So, how would smart attorneys miss this when writing the petition? What if the petition after passage was immediately challenged? It could be decided in the Supreme Court of Oklahoma since it changed the Oklahoma Constitution, and the court might direct the legislature to devise a way for Oklahoma's electors to be determined due to the severability clause. They have a severability clause. If one aspect of this petition is ruled unconstitutional, the rest of it stands. Okay? So, if an injunction is not granted against the repeal of Article 3, Section 3, we could be in legal limbo with our electors for years. The Oklahoma Constitution recognizes the U.S. Supreme Court as the supreme law of the land. It is possible that this would go to SCOTUS since Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution is at issue. Article 2, Section 1 is where the U.S. Constitution says that the state legislatures will determine how representatives to the U.S. Congress will be elected. Okay? So our federal elections. So the legislature has the plenary authority to determine that. We've heard that phrase over and over again since November 3rd of 2020. The state legislators having plenary authority over their state's elections, right? So, Terry, if you want to advance, thank you. What happens if an initiative petition by the people that is passed is ruled to be unconstitutional by any court? What happens to our initiative petition if this happens and it's ruled unconstitutional? Is this going to actually cause problems with our right as Oklahomans to gather signatures and to change our laws and our Constitution by initiative petition? We're only one of 2 states in the whole country that allow that. We have the right to completely go around our legislature and pass our own statutes here in Oklahoma, and also amend our Constitution that way. What happens if a court rules this is unconstitutional? Are people going to take advantage of that and try to tell people, oh, you can't have initiative petitions now? Whether or not that's true, we all know how this happens. They'll go around and say, oh, it was ruled unconstitutional, we can't do that anymore. Okay, we can't have that. So, was this written or changed in such a way to ensure its failure? That's a question I have. Because once again, smart attorneys, how are they missing this stuff? Do they want to land this in court for reasons that we are not getting yet? Go ahead, Terry, one more. One more.
I'm clicking it.
Yeah, there we go. How many of you all have heard about the National Popular Vote movement? Okay, I've written a Substack on that too for Restore Liberty, and go in and find that. All right, so the National Popular Vote movement, this is a danger. Why is this a danger? I'm getting ready to tell you. A state-by-state initiative that seeks to destroy the electoral college process of choosing the President and Vice President of the United States. It's been passed by 17 states, and it already has 209 electoral college votes promised to the winner of the National Popular Vote. Only blue states have passed this. Oklahoma has had this legislation introduced twice, in 2016 and once again in 2021. It's just sitting there. Didn't go through committee, was never heard. The problem with an imperial Speaker of the House and Senate pro tem, have you guys noticed how in the Capitol they've been changing and getting more power to our Speaker of the House and our President Pro Tem. They're doing things, and the legislators are complaining. They're trying to consolidate power. They're taking away the rights of the legislators to do things. I mean, I've been hearing about this for the past couple of years, but especially this year. And you all know what they just did to Ryan Walters, right?
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
what
you
happened
got-
with, what's going on with Walters right now?
Our Speaker of the House took a bill that was meant to protect teachers in this state, stripped out the language, and then inserted language that would take away Ryan's constitutional authority over that, over our Education Board of Education. The Board of Education, if you guys don't know, are appointed, all of them are appointed by the governor. The governor just decided he was gonna fire at least one of his own appointees, not to mention the other two. So if you've heard of Kendra Wesson, okay, all right, he fired Kendra, who was his own appointee, and then two others, and then put these other people on the board. Guy from Tulsa, businessman from Kingfisher, and I was looking up the other person, and I can't think of who he is, but I went to that meeting, their first meeting. The first thing out of one of those appointees' mouths was talking about, you know, can we get on the agenda? Can we discuss? Because I've got parents and students that are emailing me and they're worried about the fact that they believe that you're gonna start pulling children out of school with ICE. You know, you're cooperating with President Trump, but we have this concern and we'd like to get it on the agenda. You can't do that on any board, right? You've got plenty of time before the board meeting to talk to the president of your board or whoever and say, can we put this on the agenda before the meeting? Our superintendent of public instruction has the authority to make the agenda, period. Okay, so what they did was they are trying to strip the state superintendent of that authority on the board. Because all he did was point to the lawyer for the board, and the lawyer pointed out to the member of the board, the appointed member, you know, we can't do that. Lawfully, legally, you can't do that because the agenda's set. We can't change it. We're in the middle of a meeting. Meeting's been called to order, agenda cannot be changed. Okay, so
They
you
didn't
had to
go
tell
to
him
the
that
other
over and
meetings,
over. You know, I had to tell him that over and over. So anyway, they were already doing this, and it was obviously political theater, because the first thing the guy did when the meeting was over was run straight for the cameras that were there. We've had news media at every school board meeting since Ryan Walters was elected. Okay, so he runs straight for the cameras, gets interviewed. Oh, you know, we've got to worry about Ryan Walters. Neither Ryan nor the board has ever suggested that ICE should go into the schools and drag children out, nor would they. I can't understand. All Ryan and the board did was say, we need to have a count of all of the children in our schools and their demographics, because we need the federal government to basically repay Oklahoma the money that we've spent on our students and on students that may not be in the country legally right now. We have a right, because the federal government was doing that to the state. Basically, we have a right to get that money back. I happen to agree with that. I don't see anything wrong with what they're doing anyway, but that's my personal opinion. With that said, the Speaker of the House just stripped out a bill to protect teachers, to take away authority from our superintendent. It's a constitutional authority that he holds, and he is the only elected official on that board. The rest of them are all appointed. So why are we taking power away from the elected official and giving it to the appointed folks, okay? So with that said, if you think that was bad, if you think that your legislature won't do something, just imagine the national popular vote. That legislation is just sitting there. It's already written. It's been passed in 17 states. I, at this point, do not trust our legislature and our leaders not to strip out language from an election bill, throw in the national popular vote, and basically try to, pass that in the state. Meanwhile, convince everybody that, oh, the people of Oklahoma voted for this, they want this, because they do that to us all the time, right? Alright, so, if Article 3, Section 3 is repealed in its entirety, or the provision that directs the electors to be chosen by the parties fails, then the Oklahoma State Legislature can easily change how we choose our electors. In other words, they can put in that national popular vote legislation, and they will figure out how to do it. Terry, go ahead and advance. Now, you guys know that the last time I was here, I was talking to you about the elections, the situation with the elections, the fact that we need to pay attention that our elections are manipulated. They're very obviously manipulated. After I was here, I knew that coming into you guys because I had this data that I was sitting on. And I was sitting on it for a reason. I wanted to see if there were any legislators or anybody in the state of Oklahoma with any authority that would care to look into the fact that our elections are obviously being manipulated. From what we have been told, the way our numbers are reported on election night, I already knew that the elections were being manipulated, okay? I wrote it up finally in an article, and I published it last April, I believe, April of 2024. The questionable data from the June 2022 primary election in Oklahoma. That's why the primaries are so important. So, or will we ever have secure elections in Oklahoma? Right, so our manipulated elections become even more important than ever. We haven't done anything to fix our elections. Too big to rig in a midterm is the only way we're going to defeat State Question 836. They want open primaries in Oklahoma, obviously. They've poured a lot of money into the state to make this happen, obviously. Can they make it happen with bloated voter rolls? And with compromised machines? Oh, you bet. We have an indifferent legislature. They're not listening. Jim Shaw was just elected down, I think he's representing the area that's east of Oklahoma City and east of Edmond. He dropped multiple pieces of legislation that the people in his district wanted him to at least get a hearing on in committee. They wouldn't even hear his bills in committee. None of them. Zero. These are, issues that are affecting Oklahomans every day. People that don't want environmental damage done to the state, to their farmland, to their fields. I think he had dropped legislation regarding the windmills. There were other issues. Your grassroots issues did not get heard. The legislature, we can't count on them. Every time an election integrity bill comes up that will actually do something to help the problems, won't even be heard in committee or doesn't pass committee. Okay. So this is a problem. It's still a problem. I'm working on the November 5th data, and the same thing that happened June of 2022 happened November 5th. And it's the only 2 times I've ever seen it happen in Oklahoma, this particular form of manipulation. I can find patterns in our elections, every single one. I can dig in the data and I can find the patterns that don't make sense. And it's different every single time. It's like they switch it up. It's like, where's Waldo? It's kind of fun. Okay. So, advance, Terry. So what we need is too big to rig in a midterm, guys, because the only way you can overcome election manipulation the way it's going on is by doing what President Trump just did. And the reason why they didn't question or try to rig that election is because, quite simply, it was too big to rig. Wasn't going to happen. The fraud would be immediately apparent, and then we've got the whole country on alert that there's still something wrong with the elections. What I and other election integrity people were talking about was the fact that we need to pay attention to the down ballot races. How many of you guys went out and you were going, passing out flyers regarding the Supreme Court justices, whether you were for them or against them being retained. Okay. We have people going out. I was driving people around so that they could drop literature, okay? So I am going over the data in those races. So it makes sense. I'm gonna write it up. I'll send it to Terry, and you guys can, talk about that for a while and determine whether or not you believe it's possible that 120,000 Oklahomans, when we have Supreme Court justice races and the state is talking about it, there's all this attention paid to it, and all of a sudden, we have 120,000 fewer people voting on those justice races than we do in the presidential race or our state corporation commission race. I don't think 120,000 Oklahomans decided to just ignore those races, but that's not the only problem with that. Okay, so in conclusion, if the petition survives any legal process or challenge and we do not turn out the vote to vote this down in 2026, sending a message that we will not tolerate this attempt to strip the protection of the people, it's very possible that we could lose our elections in just a year and a half. 2026, if they pass open primaries, they're going to California or Oklahoma. This is how all of these states have been flipped blue. It's through open primaries. They got caught doing this now. But we must be vigilant in Oklahoma into the future to make sure the urban areas of this country never select the President of the United States. What happens if we have the national popular vote? With all of the questionable ballot harvesting and everything else that's going on in the entire country, especially in our urban areas, the cities are going to choose our president, and the rural areas and the smaller states will have no say. Okay, so with that said, one more. In conclusion, one more. We're done with that. One more. The solution. Rashard Tortorello is going to come and present the Grassroots War Room Precinct Training Strategy to you so that we can figure out how to defeat this. So, without further ado, here's Rashard.
Thank you, Wendy.
Good job, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Good afternoon, how are you guys doing?
There's Terry.
Are we awake yet?
No.
No, we're just getting, she's like, I just woke up. Any veterans here today? Anybody served in any war besides this gentleman here? Imagine waking up before the general election, and on the ballots, we have a Democrat like Kamala Harris.
Oh, no.
And a weak Republican like James Langford. So what happens, this is what open primaries do against Republicans. They have the ability to participate in our primaries and choose the weakest Republican candidates. Why? So when they go to the general election, they hope they don't choose Republican, and we get a Democrat elected who's too extreme for Oklahoma. So can you imagine that? This is why we have to stop State Question 836 or open primaries. I'm Rashard Tortorello. I'm from the big metropolis of Norman, Oklahoma. And yes, it's still a communist country down there. So thank you for having me up here in the free lands of Oklahoma. I was a Ward 5 city council member that fought against the most stupidest thing that city council could have done in the time back in 2020. You guys know what they did in 2020 down in Norman? Remember, they defunded our police. They wanted $4.4 million. They brought protesters in from the West Coast, East Coast. That meeting lasted almost like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they settled for $457,000, which is about 9 positions on the police force. So I joined my forces with a group down there, and our only purpose was to educate and inform the residents of Norman that we needed to recall the mayor and the odd numbered city council members. Now, do you guys remember this? No? Yes?
No.
Okay, so bring you up to date. We got enough signatures to recall the mayor and to recall my Ward 5 council person who resigned rather than face a recall. Because if you were called, you cannot run for office in Norman for like 2 terms or 6 or 3 terms. And so I ran it in a 4-way race, non-politician, retired from the military in 2007, minding my own business. All this nonsense started up in Norman. I participated and won for the first time out the door in a 4-man race. Now, how do we do that in a mostly liberal city like Norman when Republicans don't work well together sometimes? We have that problem up here too. We get in our way sometimes. The grassroots movement in Norman was probably the biggest, most conservative, fastest growing grassroots organization in the history of Oklahoma. They told us we couldn't get the signatures required during the COVID shutdown in the July heat with Antifa wanting to fight us every day, Black Lives Matter pulling up and putting up their pop-ups next to ours, and our people being harassed as they were going door to door to get these signatures. But what we did, we defied the odds. They said it couldn't be done, we did it. So what I'm saying today, the open primary scam, as I like to call it, is no different than what they did in 2020. They are preying on Republicans not knowing what's going on. And so this is our second tour, all right? And we asked people after the first part of the briefing, and now this is the second part of the briefing. I'm gonna throw 2 terms out at you, and you tell me if you recognize it or you can relate to it. So you've heard Wendi speak about what this is. So when I throw out the word or the term jungle primary, do you guys know what that means?
No.
No? Most of you guys say no. What if I said, don't California my Oklahoma? Do you guys understand that?
Yeah.
All right, don't California my Oklahoma.
I've always heard of California cake.
Same thing. I want to thank the Terry for hosting us today and the OK2A. I am a member and I am a big Second Amendment right supporter. They'll only pry my gun from my dead, cold hands, right? All right, next slide, Sylvester. Oklahoma is considered a red state. So what I feel they're doing is that this is a testing ground. And for your military guys, it's a proving ground. If they can get the message here and win in this state, they will go to other red states to do the same thing. Fortunately for you, I know the guy who's behind all this. Yes, and he is a Republican. Or we would call him another word, right? What's another word we would say?
Right.
Right? Say it again.
Right.
I already know what he's going to do. No matter what roadblocks the state legislature throws at him, he already has, in military terms, assets deployed in parts of the states. So if Senate Bill 1027 passes, you guys familiar with that bill? Basically, for initiative petitions, it limits, if you're in a town with over 400,000 population, you can only get 10% of those votes or the signatures, okay? And so what it does, if it passes the House and it gets signed by the governor, it will force the petitioners to go outside and visit at least 22 counties in Oklahoma. Can you imagine only 2 counties, Tulsa County and Oklahoma County, making the laws for the entire state? That's what we're looking at. So we are the proving grounds. Why you should listen to us? I ran for council, I won. I'm retired military, I served in the Middle East. I got blown up. I have one of the highest medals for heroism, second only to the Medal of Honor. And I love this state. I love America. I'm ultra MAGA. I can't pull my tattoo up. Faithful Christian. I have a tattoo I want to show it to you so bad, but can't take my jacket off. And we're going around on our Saturday afternoons to have these conversations because the war, and what they hope you guys don't understand, the battlefield is at the precinct level. Okay? It is at the precinct level. So, you've heard the term too big to rig. You know what that means? Does anybody have an idea what that means? Nobody understands that unless you pay attention to the national news. So, I want you to erase that out of your memory. What it really means is how Trump won his election in 2024. So, go back a couple of years to 2023. We invited to Norman, Oklahoma, and hosted, myself and my wife, Dr. Nicole Kish, a guy from out of state who was visiting all the states who wanted to listen to what he had to say. Scott Pressler. Does that name ring a bell? Scott Pressler was invited to Norman, Oklahoma to spend a day with us, and I brought in people from the different counties to listen to his training, and he explained to us and taught us how he flipped Florida seats and New Jersey seats in favor of the Republicans. He went and attacked the precincts, precinct by precinct. The RNC hired him to work on this campaign with Trump, and Trump will always say he won this by the grassroots. He said, I had my precinct captains in every state and every county go door to door to door. That's how he won this. So that's how the term too big to rig came out, but I think it doesn't mean anything unless you guys know the context. All right, so that's the context. Here in Oklahoma, the battlefield is precincts. While we're going from county to county, talking to the leaders of this group, your county officials, is because we hope you take this training and you go and meet with your precinct chairs. But if you're like Cleveland, Oklahoma, Cleveland County, half our precincts don't have a chair. You have the same problem here? You get a 2-for-1. If you can articulate what we're saying and how we say it, and we'll have collateral for you, you can keep these slides, and you go from house to house, talking to your friends, family, and neighbors like church. Just think of building a church. What do? You invite people to church. You invite them here. That's the same strategy that the opponent is employing now. That's the same strategy we need to mimic, because I say mimic, we're behind schedule. They already announced this back in December. So they had 4 or 5 months of earned media attention, okay? They've been on the news, they've been on social media, they've been in the paper. But what you have not seen is anything opposing it up until now. They have the upper hand. So we are working and collaborating with OCPA. They'll do the collateral, they'll do the top-down informing. What we hear, we want the grassroots, and we're building from the ground up. Because you guys can understand what this means for the state of Oklahoma. Now, who does not understand this so far? Who understands it so far? You raise your hand.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, raise your hands. How we do it? Before we do it, I've collected data on different states, but we're looking at California because this is a California-style primary. Again, it selects the weakest Republicans to represent us in the hopes that we have a Kamala-type Democrat running in the general election for governor of Oklahoma and a weak Republican. And of course, the weak Republicans win out, it's going to lose, because that's the purpose behind what they want to do. So the talking point for the guys that promote this, they say that Oklahoma has the lowest participation rate in voters. We just don't get out to vote. They're making fun of us, right? But in California, they only saw a 2% increase in voting. And they've been doing it for years. So that doesn't hold water. We talked about having a Kamala-type Democrat running against a weak Republican in the primary. Their other argument is that this will open up the field for more qualified candidates. Not true. According to the data, 20% of the time in the states that have open primaries, they have 2 Democrats running in the general primary. And if they try so hard, they win in Oklahoma, that number is going to increase every 4 years. So we know it's not true. The third lie, is that we want participation with independents. All right, these poor independents, and these poor little Democrats just want to participate in our primaries. But if you want to participate in our primaries, we're a club. So what do you got to do?
Join the club.
Join the club. They want to open the door. So the military guys in here, this is a military term, we have what's called outside the wire and inside the wire. You don't understand what that means? This means we have a perimeter. We protect the perimeter. We protect the wire. Nothing comes past our perimeter. We don't allow the enemy to pass. Open primary scam opens a perimeter. It opens the line and allows Democrats, independents to come and vote in our primary. You guys all recall the great Rush Limbaugh? God bless his soul. I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh. He taught me. I was a Democrat when I was younger. I joined the military, paid taxes, raised a family, and got an education of a lifetime from Rush Limbaugh. And so I am I've been a lifelong conservative Republican ever since then in my entire career in the military. What's that?
You got your eyes open.
Yes. I was young. It was like 19. Okay. So there was, it's a lifetime. I'm gonna say I turned 57 last month, so it's a lifetime for me. But he had Operation Chaos. You guys remember that?
Yep.
Remember what was it, Gloria? What was Operation Chaos all about? What did he ask us to do as Republicans to thwart the second re-election of Clinton?
Oh, yes. It was to, hold on, it's in my brain, coming out my mouth, and it's not
I
coming.
remember he would say, "Come down a raw deal."
So what Rush Limbaugh and Operation Chaos was all about, he wanted Republicans to change their affiliation to Democrats.
That's right, it was Dino.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Democrat in name only.
Just to mess with their primaries.
Yeah.
That was the original Operation Chaos.
Yeah.
So Republicans, we haven't forgotten that. It was a funny thing at the time because it was big news. But the Democrats learned from that. They learned from the 2020 elections. That would happen with Gore and Bush, and they vowed never to let that happen again. So fast forward to today and what's going to happen in Oklahoma. They also say it's payback.
Yeah.
We are paying back not just here in Oklahoma, but around the nation. They say that open primaries reduce political extremism. But we've seen in the last 2 weeks, you don't see me drive my Tesla around Oklahoma City. You know why?
It'll get scratched.
I get shot and burned. So they haven't forgotten, and they employ political extremism to get their points across. And so what the same guy advocates, my Republican friend, is that it'll reduce political extremism. But that's not the case.
No.
We're seeing an increase in it. It's not uniting the peoples together. It is keeping us separated. That's how they win, and that's what their goals are. Who does it affect? 100% Republicans. This is all about turning a red state blue. Remember what I said earlier? We are proving grounds or a testing ground. What they learn here, how they get the message out, they will take the best practices and go out and do it in another state. They will keep doing it. What slide you got up there? Let's catch up. Go to slide 10. So what we're here to do, the precinct is the battlefield when we're slide row. What we learned from Scott Pressler, one more, when he was here in Oklahoma, he stopped in Tulsa. We employed his precinct strategy. One more. Sylvester, one more slide, bro. All right, that's my wife, Dr. Kish, and Scott Presser on the right. So we brought him to Norman, Oklahoma. We spent an entire day with him. He used to be a Democrat operative, turned Republican because of all their nonsense, and he showed us how to get things done. He also was employed by the RNC to work on Trump's campaign.
Yep.
And so in Cleveland County, Dr. Kish, in her precinct strategy training, she goes and does this around the state. But in the last general election, because of what we've done in Cleveland County, we were the #1 performing county in the state of Oklahoma when it comes to voter engagement in the last primary and the last general election. So what does this tell you? It actually works. So what she's done with Scott Presser is 10x'd it. In other words here, she multiplied it in her outreach and how she does it in scale by 10%. So we can achieve in Cleveland County and become the leader in the state of Oklahoma as far as voter engagement in the county. So, key points to remember. We win locally. We campaign here in the grassroots. This is where it starts. This is where the war is going to be fought. And this is how we win. Make no illusions. Pat McFerrin is going to go all out on this once they start gathering signatures. What we want to do is inform our Republican colleagues, friends, and families who may fall prey to his kind words. He's a gentleman. He says nice things. He wears a suit. He carries a briefcase, and you all know that a guy in a suit and a briefcase has instant credibility. You know, except for me. So we don't want Republicans signing the primary or the petition because they think it sounds good. Okay, so you need to inform and tell them that open primaries will lead to weaker representation. You'll open up a California-style primary where we might get 2 weak Republicans to represent us, and they've already picked their candidate to win. It's true. It happened in California, and it's happening in Georgia. I got a state committee man who is on the committee with the state GOP in Georgia, and their #1 task and purpose is to overturn their open primary that's in their state. Because when you get too many Democrats come out and represent a state, we have to say, I wouldn't say that they're a bunch of idiots, but if you guys recall about 20 years ago, that Georgia representative who thought Guam was going to tip over with too many soldiers.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, he's from Georgia.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Maxine Waters,
Right in there.
you guys get my point.
How do they keep getting elected? Not me.
We don't want that. So we want a clear, simple message. And we tested it out, and the most clearest one right now is don't California my Oklahoma.
Amen.
Okay? Everybody gets that. So that's just not on itself there. We can't win on that. Okay? They've already got ahead of us at least 6 months on earned media attention, which means they're already in the press. They're being discussed. Their views are the only views out there right now. Okay? Wendi and I had sat on the sideline waiting for someone to do this. I'm going to say, okay, GOP. Silence. All right? And so it is back to the grassroots to take care of what is important to the state of Oklahoma and to Republican voters and to the conservative caucus. This is a grassroots, bottom-up campaign. Keep the message simple, but it's not all. I want you guys, once you get our information, the slides are yours to keep, go to our Facebook page and go to Grassroots War Room and join that organization. Grassroots War Room, or friend me on Facebook. I'll send you the link. There we'll have all the data, all the collateral, all the examples for opinions. I'd like you guys to write an opinion to your paper at least once a month against open primaries. If you know anybody up here who's a social influencer, who's your most famous TikToker up here?
Terry. Wait, are you not Terry?
We were down in McAllister the other night, and this couple goes, "Yeah, we know this. His father is like the biggest TikToker in McAllister. He's got like 177,000 followers." I said, "Is he Republican?" "Yep." Bingo. So those are the people we're looking for influencers. So when the group rolled out their press conference, they already had Oklahoma influencers, but on the Democrat Independent Rhino side. David Holt of Oklahoma City and all his cronies, the new mayor of Tulsa, they can get out every day, and even if they have to go and look for signatures in different parts of the state, they have those influencers who knows people in those counties. This is why I say we're already behind the curve. We're playing catch up. So find those influencers here in this county, enlist them. This is a war, I'll be honest. This is how I see it. We need to enlist, find soldiers willing to raise their hands to go speak publicly against this, to write about it publicly. If they're influenced and they have 100,000 followers or even 10, get on social media and say why you are against this, because that's the only way. The county has to get involved. The county has to go to the precincts, have your precinct meetings, and bring these people on board, educate them. We'll give you flyers when they're ready to pass along. We'll make it so easy for you. All you have to do, say, don't California my Oklahoma. Decline the sign. If a petitioner shows up in your neighborhood, you send it to the group so we know where they're at. Okay? Hopefully by the time they start signature gathering, all of this county will be talking to their friends and family and neighbors to get the word out. Because if we don't, go back to the explosion, the proving ground, slide number 3. They will take what they learn here and they will ship it to other states. And who knows what will be like this country in 10 years. Total different landscape. They are using Oklahoma as a testing ground.
Yep.
Guarantee you, I know the guy behind it, I know what he's thinking, and you have the advantage because we know where to go. Grassroots mobilization. You're here today because we are all considered grassroots. I mean, who else would show up on a Saturday afternoon? We should be shopping and doing things for our family. Again, we need to get out and talk to our friends, family, neighbors. Digital and social media strategy, already discussed that. Influencers and conservative media, already discussed that. The scam should be that moment where it unifies all Republicans in this state. And you would have to agree that sometimes the GOP is fractured. It's what you did to me 10 years ago. I'm not going to talk to you, support you, that BS. So we want to unite the Republican Party. I think this is the way to do it. We need to fill our precinct chairs. All those chairs that are empty in this county with one person, at least one chair, to run that precinct. This will do it. Think of it as a 3-for-1. So keep an eye out for the signature gatherers. When you join the Grassroots War Room Facebook page, we're going to create a web page and an email address where you can send tips when you see these things here. By the time, I hope in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have collateral for you to pass out. All you got to do is share it, sample letters to the editor, sample posts to share on Facebook, social media like X and Twitter. This is how we win. And if it's not you, then who? If it's not now, then when? So, are you with us?
Yep.
Are you with us?
Yeah.
All right, that's it. Terry, I want to thank you for doing this, and
Thank you for coming.
we'll have a Q&A, and as long as I'm out of here by 1:45, I'll be happy.
Okay.
My wife will be happy.
First off, Stephen, could you put the phone number up? Those of you that are watching online, my phone number will be on the screen here. And if you've got any questions, you can text them to me and I'll verbalize them. And now, questions from the room. Yeah, come on up.
It was 8:36. When will the actual vote happen on 8:36?
Their target is the general election for 2026, to have it on the ballot for the citizens of the state to vote on.
Okay, so 2026 is in the general election in November.
Yes, we have about a year and a half.
Okay.
You have a year and a half to get your precinct leaders or precinct captains, have your GOP committee meetings and get people out. And what you need to do, in that case, of course, and since Kate County's kind of a more rural area, but you need to go knock doors. Door knocking is going to be key because we need to drive turnout. If we don't have a general election type turnout in this midterm, it makes it so much easier for them to manipulate this vote. We have to make it to where they cannot manipulate the vote. Okay, so it'll be immediately apparent to people working election integrity if this vote is manipulated.
Not very good at that.
But
John?
yeah, even an 8th grade math educational.
Is the primary way they're manipulating the votes is the machines?
Actually, it's more important that we clean up the voter rolls in the state. So we've had a couple of legislators try to drop legislation to re-register all Oklahomans, to archive the voter rolls and then just to re-register everybody. Walk down to your county election board, show your driver's license, sign up again, rebuild the voter rolls from scratch. Because right now, they're such a disaster. Nobody can make heads or tails of them. And the walk lists are all messed up for our candidates. People that go out and knock doors and who have tried to canvass the voter rolls have found problems. Oklahoma County is one of the more problematic counties in Oklahoma. So it's Oklahoma, Tulsa, and Cleveland County, more problematic than the others when it comes to the voter rolls. But you guys have to make sure up here that there's nothing hiding in your county, for voter rolls, like what they call phantom voters. That's literally a person on your rolls that does not exist. Okay, so if you go through and you start canvassing your voter rolls here in Kate County, make sure they're clean. That would be very helpful. But we have to re-register Oklahomans to vote. We've got to clean up those voter rolls because without the absentee ballot, mail-in ballot, it makes the machine manipulation that more difficult, okay, to happen. So the voter rolls have to be number one because you can't have the machines manipulate without the fake voter rolls. That's the way the theory of election fraud works. Yes, ma'am.
Question for you. I work at a small precinct here in Garfield County.
Could you
And
talk louder so they can?
we have a number of people on our registry, of course, and we always say, well, they never come in to vote. We know they've moved to so-and-so. Is there a cross-check that if they register at their new location that they will come off, that they can only be on one registry?
Well, what you can do, and especially as a person that works in the polling place, and you see this, go to your county election board secretary, give them notice if you know somebody's moved, have them send out a card, and if the card's not returned, then they can remove them from the rolls. I believe that's the process, okay, and
Quite a few. I mean, we know
yeah,
who they are.
you have
They
the
used to be
authority
neighbors,
according to
know.
We've done that in
Title
Cleveland
26.
County, so.
But I just need to tell them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, well,
Cal.
according to Title 26, they have the authority to remove people from the rolls. They can do this if they just follow the law. So, you can do that, but also you have to make sure more people don't.
But
You
there's
got-
no
pop
cross-check
up and
against
show
them
up.
being on more than one.
So far as I know, no, you could just enter in their information in the voter portal.
If you've
We
got-
have multiple duplicate
If
registrations
you've got
in
any
the state.
specific questions, the election board secretary, they're real good about answering the
Oh,
phone
yeah.
up there.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Well, I'm in
you can-
Garfield County and I have a good relationship.
There you
with
go.
the
Yeah,
secretary.
There you go.
Do we have any questions about the game plan? Anything about what I just spoke about?
a number of our people who came in last November, or no, excuse me, the primary last year, because I'm big about primaries. I tell all my friends, if you expect to get anybody out, you've got to vote the primaries.
Yep.
The incumbents are gonna shine and you're never gonna get them out. The ones who wanted to come in, independents who wanted to come in and vote, of course, we told them you can only have a Democratic ballot.
Right.
Democrat ballot, and they'd say, oh, well, I'm not voting Democrat. I said, then you need to vote, you need to re-register as a Republican.
Right.
And I don't know if I should have been telling them that or not, but I said, if that's how you feel, that's the only way you're gonna be able to vote in the primary. Now, is there any chance that the GOP is gonna open that up like the Democrats did? and allow
No, this is what we're fighting against. Right now, so the whole fight against the open primary is not to allow independents or Democrats to vote.
But that was the Democrat Party.
The Democrats
decision
allow
that allowed
independent,
them.
they allow them to have their open primaries.
Right.
We, in the state of Oklahoma, the Republicans do not have open primaries. That's what they want to change. So they want to change and allow those independents to come and vote in our primary.
Right.
Which it goes back to what happens, it gives us weak candidates. Okay, they will select the candidate that does not agree with us, that does not vote with us, that does not have our values to be the Republican candidates in November. That's what this whole thing is about, is to fight against that. And we start by informing you at the precinct level, that's what the whole scam is about here. So to answer your question?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that it was 8:35 before, but
It's 8:36 now.
yeah, and before that, I was hearing most people talk to about getting rid of the electoral college. And I run into a lot of people say, why can't we have primaries? Why can't we just have one vote? Why can I vote this one for both the Democrats and Republicans, just like you said? And I guess that's what I've been hearing. I hear people just say that, why can't we just have that? What difference does it make? You know, just have one ballot and we want to vote for one. And I've been hearing that already.
So
Right on the street, you know.
So they're pushing that because, like I said, go back to the 4 questions. They're pushing the 4 statements. It allows for participation by the majority of the electorate. Okay, that's what they're pushing. It will get rid of political extremism, and it will increase voter turnout. Neither are true in the state of Oklahoma. Okay, we always say in my club, your clubs, if you want to vote in the Republican primary, change your affiliation, become a Republican. Because what happens when we allow, it does sound nice. You know, that does sound nice. The words they use sounds like it's peaceful, it's benign. But the Trojan horse in all this is that we don't want a weak Republican to represent our values into the general election. That's why that is what they're doing around the nation. Okay, Trump won. Now, plan B is to nullify his authority by having states with governors who don't support him and don't support us. This is why we're doing this. This is why you have to know why this is a danger to the Republican Party. I don't care what the Democrats do. They can let anyone vote in their primary. It's Mox Nix to me. But what's important to us.
Yeah, but what I was mentioning was the danger I've been hearing that people with thinking that that's a good idea. You can talk to anybody.
I can't hear you. Sure, I can hear you.
The danger, I'm saying, I've been hearing people reflecting that why don't we have one, you know, just what you're saying that we're against. And for some, I don't know if they did take civics in high school or whatever, they could say, oh, why can't we have, let's get rid of the electoral college. And they just, and you have to explain it to them, no.
Okay.
People are
That's
getting
yeah,
lazy.
Okay, what I've done to help that situation is, that's covered in the Federalist Papers. So it's covered in Federalist 68 by Alexander Hamilton. And I actually read that out on an audio and posted it on the Restore Liberty Oklahoma Substack account, and it's free for everybody. So while you're driving in your car, hit play, you will hear Federalist 68, and you will hear why our electoral college system is so important and why the founders set it up the way it did. And what I tell people is when they ask me about the electoral college and say, well, what's so important about that? Well, number one, the states elect the president. We do not. Why is it that way? The founders were scared to death of a pure democracy. They were, they were like, no way, we're not doing this to people. And the reason why they didn't was because I point people to, look at Socrates, okay? Socrates, all of a sudden, after being a Greek instructor for years and years and years and years, and everybody loved him, right? It's Socrates. All of a sudden, just a couple people decided they didn't like what he was saying. So they brought him up before the Senate. He went on trial, and he was put to death by one vote because a couple people didn't like what he was saying anymore. Thought he was teaching the children wrong. So our founders, understanding that history, was looking for a way to secure individual liberties against the tyranny of the majority. That's what a pure democracy is. We cannot have 51% of the population or 50.1% of the population telling the other 49% how they're going to live. The founders did everything they could to prevent that situation from happening, okay? So the electoral college system gives the smaller states more say and protects our individual rights against the tyranny of the majority. That's why the electoral college system is so important. They did not want an imperial president. They did not want an imperial executive. So they tried to figure out how they were going to get around that, and the electoral college is their answer for that. And I think it's done pretty well over the years. But they want to strip that away and replace it with a system by which you can control the presidency through the urban areas. That's what the national popular vote is, with the election fraud that is already inherent across this country, and it still is, with all of the mule rings that are in the urban areas that can run up the vote and run up those totals through fraudulent means so much easier. Right now, they have to get around the electoral college system. They know the states will never amend the Constitution. We will never get rid of it. Okay, so this is their answer to get around that. It's already in Oklahoma. It's been submitted to our legislature twice. So if they weaken our Republican candidates through the open primary system, and we end up, and already people who are Democrats switch to Republican just to get elected, okay? We already have a problem with our legislature. Can you imagine if they manage to get these open primaries, we get weaker Republican candidates than we already have? Because they'll say, oh, well, we've got to elect this person because they're electable through the entire electorate, through this open primary system. So forget the platform. Forget the conservative Republican platform. They're going to try to tell you that makes somebody unelectable. That's a lie, but they're going to continue to tell you that anyway.
Right. Excuse me, I got to leave at 1:30 here. Any other
Yes.
questions for me? All right. Hey, Sylvester, Terry, take my slide set and share it with whoever you want to share it.
I have one question, are you booked up?
I'm getting there. We are getting there. So if you want us to speak at your event, you can just text us.
Garfield County GOP meeting April 7th, you have to be coming there.
I'm free that night. I'm pretty sure.
I'm free that night too.
Talk to Neanda.
Yeah,
Okay, you'll have to send her our
I'll
information.
get with Neanne. I have her number here.
Oh,
Do
Neanne.
with Neanda.
Clinton? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
Neanne.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'll be there. Are you from Garvin?
Garfield.
Garfield, I'll
Yeah,
be
we
there.
both
Enid,
drove up.
gotcha.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for having us today here. I got to get back to Norman. We got voter registration Friday in Cedar County tonight.
Thanks for coming,
You're
really
welcome, guys.
appreciate it.
Let's win this war.
Amen.
Amen.
Let's win
It
this
is a
war.
war.
It's a war.
It is.
You need to remember,
Thank
Facebook
you.
friend
Thank you for
request
your
to you, I've got a
question.
heart with
Thank you so much.
with red and white stripes on it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm hearing from a lot of Republicans, they're slacking off because Trump won. This is just the first battle of a long,
You just
long
don't be elected
war.
by your party right
And so we need to stay in the trenches.
Oh, and elected.
Okay, Joe, are there any more questions for Wendy?
She's got.
I just have.
Yes.
Unless you wanna go with me.
Do what?
Do you wanna come with me, drive back, or do you wanna go with the car?
No, I drove.
She
You
drove.
drove yourself?
I drove, so.
Okay, we've got one question for you here,
Yes.
Wendy.
Yeah, how strongly is the Republican Party behind you to push this grassroots effort? Are they financially supporting you?
No,
Wendy.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
It doesn't have any
I will
finances.
talk about
It's
that.
grassroots.
we don't have any finances right now. It's purely grassroots.
What?
Nobody is sponsoring us.
Oh,
Once
okay.
again, I mean, I've gone around the state for the past 2 years talking about election integrity and not taking a dime. I've done it on my own. I volunteered. Because we are getting booked up so much, actually though now, you know, I'm still looking for a paying job. So
So we're all.
with that said, I have very fixed income right now, so I'm actually, I had to ask for gas money this time, guys. So I can't continue to go around and pay gas, you know, without a little bit of help, but it'll go straight into my gas tank. But other than that, no sponsors. I personally, I don't want anybody questioning my data. I don't want anybody questioning my, you know, my analysis or anything else. That's why I don't like to associate with groups or anything like that. Now, Gloria and Stan are absolutely behind this. I've talked to, you know, all of our people, Wayne Hill, and I haven't talked to John Bennett yet, but I know him. Anybody in the Republican Party that I've talked to, I've had Kayla Blunt, the new chair from Oklahoma County, asked me about this in November. The other people running for chairs there. Tulsa County Charity Lynch, I'm gonna be on her program on Tuesday talking about the elections and talking about November 5th. Okay, so it is bringing together, besides the grassroots, it's bringing together other people because they understand. OCPA was just there this week. They understand what's going on. They understand they don't want open primaries. They understand there's a lot of money that's come into the state to try to force this and try to get people to sign and to try to push this in Oklahoma. And like Rashar said, if they succeed, they will take this template and they will try to do this in other red states. So I'm kind of questioning why they even think they have a chance in Oklahoma. And it may be because, I don't know, I hate to say it, but we've kind of ignored the issue with the elections over the past 3 or 4 years. So with that said, they've got the means and the mechanism and everything in place to do what they continue to do, and that is manipulate the elections. So with the bloated voter rolls, who knows, we're gonna have to start challenging signatures, making sure, you know, signatures on these petitions are actual people. Okay, that is the problem with bloated voter rolls and manipulated elections. They can take a state question like this and potentially just come up with signatures, you know? I mean, we have to make sure that that's not possible. That's a theory. That's, you know, we know that there are things going on with our elections. We have to get around that right now, and there is a way to get around that. So President Trump, even though hardly any states addressed their election issues, he still won. How did he win? Too big, too rigged, because it's mathematically sound. If you get more than half the voters in a precinct to vote for a certain candidate, you can't rig that election. Otherwise, you can end up with over 100% turnout in your precinct, and everybody knows that that's impossible. Okay, so that's why too big to rig works. That's why we need voter turnout, and we need general election, at least general election turnout in an off-year election. This is why this is so key. The precinct strategy is so key. We got to get people out. We got to get them to the polls. So you guys with your precinct strategy, make sure you all know at least 10 or 15 other GOP registered voters in your neighborhoods, in your precincts. Make sure they go to the polls with you. General election 2026. Just mark that on your calendar right now. Make it a goal. Get 10 to 15 other voters that you all are going to travel to the polls, if you don't work them, on election day. Take them with you and make sure they vote. If everybody does this, we will be able to drive that turnout. Okay, so that's what we need. Yes, Stan?
Yeah, so,
Wait,
the OK GOP,
what, this is the last question, folks.
that's fine,
We're out of
has
time.
been involved in.
Keep it short.
So, we put together the meeting with OPCA this week and brought them in. So we're gonna push this down to the precincts. We also are filing a lawsuit against them.
Okay,
and
what's
the
your
Democrat Party.
question?
Well, clarifying a little bit of what the OK GOP is actually doing and has been doing.
Okay, well, it's 1:30 and it's,
And so the Democrats are gonna sign on with us, I think.
I'll book, wait a minute,
That's
I'll
fine.
book
All right.
speech, I book speakers, but we don't get a question and answer time at my meetings. I don't allow anybody to make a speech. If you wanna make a speech, contact me and we'll see about booking you for one of my meetings. But I'm sorry, it's just my ironclad rule. All of my old timers know that.
We are filing lawsuits against this.
Yeah.
You're gonna file a lawsuit against me?
No, no, sir. No,
No,
sir.
hey, listen.
Not you,
I
Terry,
don't,
no.
you know, I'm sorry if I made you mad.
Oh, not at all.
I run the meeting, it doesn't run me.
Yeah,
So-
no, you're good. It's all good.
Okay,
Yeah.
Joe?
I'll be very quick. I am coming here to wear a couple different hats. Everybody knows me. If you don't, I am Joe Vaden. I am the K County GOP chairman. I was asked to run for school board, and I gave it some thought, and I decided that's what I'm going to do. So I've got some yard signs here, some more in the truck. You guys know me, know my values. My focus is on academic performance and I want the school board to be more engaged with the public. So I would like to see more parental involvement and directing the school board members to do what they're supposed to do, and that's represent the people. So that's kind of that part of me. Other part of me, GOP chair. Next week, we have, don't tell me, hang on. My brain just she just got fired.
That's my trick.
Kendra Wesson, God,
Oh,
sorry.
good.
We have Kendra Wesson coming next week to the GOP meeting for Thursday, 7 p.m. at the VOTEC. And to what you guys were talking about, this is something that every single meeting that we have a GOP meeting, we encourage people to participate, and we've been begging and pleading with you. This right here is why. So please, come to our meetings as well.
Fourth Thursday, 7 p.m.
7
at
p.m.
Pioneer Tech.
Yes, yeah. So that's it. That way we can get them out of here.
I know Kendra very well.
When's the school board? Oh, sorry. School board election is on April Fool's Day.
April 1st.
Good pick.
This year.
Yes, April Fool's Day.
If you don't know Kendra Wesson, I know her very well. She is a champ, and she got screwed over by the governor on that deal. And it's my understanding the reason he kicked them off the board is that they wanted to pursue getting an accounting of the children from illegal parents, illegal immigrants that are in the Oklahoma schools. And for some reason, Governor Stitt didn't want to do that. So also, for what it's worth, there's a rumor going around that Senator Langford is possibly going to take the presidency at OSU. And if that happens, then I guess the what would be the new governor, Pennell, would probably appoint him as a senator. I don't know, but if that Senate seat comes open, that could change the atmosphere of the whole political situation here in Oklahoma. I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm sorry we didn't have time for more speeches and questions, but I don't like to go over an hour and a half, and we are at an hour and 35 minutes. So thank you very much for coming. God bless America. God bless President Trump. We are blessed. The Lord had his hand on his head in Butler, PA. If it hadn't been for that, he'd be a dead body. So keep him in your prayers. Keep me in your prayers too, by the way. Thank you very much for coming. Next meeting will be second Tuesday, Mary's Grill in Tonkawa at 6 p.m. Fourth Saturday in April here, and I think it's the 22nd as well at 12 noon. Thanks for coming, folks. Stay safe, stay free.